Good morning, Snow College. What a time we live in. In my time of over 30 years, it is quite a remarkable, unprecedented moment. But these are the moments that I think reveal, our characters, and I think this is where we dig deep. And I think if there's anything that we've learned, through all of this, is that we can do hard things, and that. Especially now, we really have to push through the tape, because we're in finals, next to the sort of round, winding down a very interesting, I think, and difficult semester. And I think one thing that we need to sort of help our students understand is that while we've moved kind of remote learning, this isn't really a beta test. This is really an emergency pivot. And so if we are gonna do more of this in the summer and the future, we're gonna make sure that we're getting the support to our faculty, that we can be better prepared. So I think for a lot of students, this has been an okay experience, maybe even something it's a good experience. But I think we've really unfairly put faculty and staff in a position to pivot so quickly. Been very difficult to maintain the quality. But listen, we want to welcome you all this morning to our weekly kind of open forum. We hope that you can hear us okay. Make sure that as you have questions, and if there are any sort of audio or visual sort of challenges, type that in so that we can make sure there's adjustment. I'm really sort of excited to be able to introduce our guest this morning, Representative Darren Owens. And I would guess that most of you know Representative Owens. He has been a terrifically effective legislator on behalf of Central Utah. And so we felt that it would be good for him to sort of talk about the state of the state, if you will. At this point, and again, it's still murky. The future is very murky for us. So no one has a clear sight on over the next 6 months. But you've been involved, in these special legislative sessions that have been discussing this. And so we would really welcome any questions that might involve those aspects of the COVID experience that might affect us. But it's so good to work with you. If you don't know much about Representative Owens, he's a lifetime educator. He is a alum of Snow College. He's a former football player, and he's very, very committed to education, and particularly higher education. He's ran several bills and has been an incredible advocate for our part of the state, and we couldn't be more fortunate with the legislators that we have, including you. So welcome, Representative. It's nice to have you here, and so do you want to sort of maybe introduce yourself to those that might not know you well, and so what are your thoughts? You've had a couple of, at least one special session?
Right. Actually, we're in the middle of one right now.
And that must be weird because you aren't convening physically. This is all done remotely. So how are things in your world?
My world is crazy like yours, President. And I thank you for having me. And thank you for your leadership. I don't know about the rest of you in Badger Land Nation out there, but this weekly meeting has been just an anchor for me, and I think for all of us, that we know we're going to get up-to-date information from you and your staff each week, and I look forward to it. So thank you for leading out on that. We are in the middle of a special legislative session, and so many things are first. And to the students, Badgers out there, I don't think we could have withstood this virus and upshaken our economy and world in previous generations. But you're kind of built for it, and you guys are good in technology. I have my own son last night who came running in and gave me a hug as I was getting ready to go to bed, because he's going to SUU and just Finished his last final and he got his first 4.0. So
nice. Yeah.
Which was a big change for him. So we were happy and proud of that. But so it can be done.
Yeah.
And it's shaken all of our families and our world. Nobody's been untouched. The special legislative session we started last Thursday, and we left that open for the rest of this week. We're planning to finish that up tomorrow and actually go into a fourth legislative session with a few bills from the governor. So we should wrap up though tomorrow evening late. But all it was to address the coronavirus. And we needed to run a bill to accept the federal dollars. We needed to run a bill to protect our healthcare workers, like from immunity if they are working just a little outside of their specialty. A number of things like that. We set up a commission, which this shows you how flexible government can be. We set up this commission on Friday. They've been working around the clock, and they have to report today to the governor about how we're going to open this economy back up. What steps are we going to take? And then the governor will be reporting on that within a week by May 1st of whether he accepts that advice or why not. So the legislature, we always have that little tension. It's healthy tension between the executive branch and the legislature, and we've been pushing a little bit there. So that's been my crazy world, and like yours, working remotely and trying to keep our distance and stay healthy and strong.
It seems we're very lucky in Utah, in lots of ways. It's handling, I think, this emergency. There's no playbook on this. I mean, we do have some examples of hard-hit areas like New York, but it seems like that our flattening of the curve seems to be working. I think the state has been well managed. But one thing that I've been very, very fortunate to feel so grateful about being a part of Utah is I've been talking to other presidents around the region. So I was in a meeting the other day with the Scenic West Athletic Conference presidents, right? So these are presidents from Idaho and Colorado and Nevada, and these states are getting hammered in a much more difficult position economically and financially than Utah. And I think that's because I think we're a well-managed state. I think we have rainy day funds and other ways. We've had a very good economy, but listening to my colleagues from Nevada, for example, they're facing major budget cuts. And that raises all kinds of questions about their future. Colorado, Idaho. So how would you sort of rank the state? I mean, you've watched the Intermountain region, and how do you feel like we're positioned? I mean, no one's perfectly positioned for a disaster like this, but how do you feel like we're positioned economically to weather this?
That's a great question, and I'm going to report on that on a couple of fronts. First of all, yesterday, this is the best news we could hope for, that we turned out of all of our testing. Of course, the more you test, the more positive results of the virus you're going to see. Yesterday, as our tests continue to expand, we've turned the corner and we have fewer positive tests yesterday than the day before. We now hope that continues, but that's that curve you're talking about, and it looks like we're right where we need to be. Per capita, Utah's number 5 in the country of states for testing. So our state's in a good place. We're one of 8 states who did not go into a mandatory stay-at-home, shelter-at-home because of the trust of the people. And you can see that that's just the people of Utah. Now, as far as being ready to weather the storm, and students, be conservative. Put your savings away in good times, especially because now you can see why we need them. The state has about $500 million in rainy day funds that was set aside over good times. I wish we could have put more of that away. Now looking back, it's always easier. But on top of that, we also have working rainy day funds, and these are dollars that have been allocated toward building projects or other things that can be used in times like this. So there's $1 billion. And then one of the bills we just passed last week was to remove the 50% bond cap, so you can use those dollars that are going to the state prison in times like this. So faculty, we've done too much work. I advocated for Snow College, in higher ed to now take a big step backwards. We're not going to let that happen, folks. So I know we're worried. Everybody should be, rightfully so, but I hope that we can just at least, be left harmless and take our hits that way. The economy's going to take a while to come out of this, but having those savings in place, and then of course, everything that's been passed now, Congress has finally done something, and that's going to really help. One of the bills we passed was to accept those dollars, and I think we're in a good place as a state to weather this. But how long is it going to go on? We're going to have to learn how to live with this virus. But to you young people, we have vulnerable populations. You're not one of them, so to speak. I mean, you can get sick, but you're not life threatened. So be mindful of the older generation and younger as you go out and mingle, and your grandparents and loved ones. So we need you to still stay vigilant, even though we just start topping over the curve.
Yeah. Well, welcome to those that have just joined us. We have Representative Darren Owens with us this morning to really give us a perspective from the state. Darren Owens is our representative here in Central Utah, and very, very effective. Tell us a little bit more about our understanding of the federal help, right? So what, the federal stimulus packages, how that is going to help, say, Utah's economy. And then what Utah has to consider then is what is the gap that the federal assistance isn't going to help, and how do we plug in, from the state budget? Do we understand yet the gap that will be left from what the federal government can't cover and what is our obligation as a state to cover?
Yeah. Part of the commission that was just established is to look in depth of that with business leaders, health professionals, and so every industry to find out the answer. I don't know if we know yet what that answer is, but we have to start looking at it. The federal dollars, just yesterday, the Congress passed out of Senate another almost $500 billion for small businesses. And if you're a small business owner out there, you need to take advantage of these. These are to help keep people on payroll. And some of it can be forgiven. Some of it is a grant. The rest of it is small interest, I think 1% loans. So those dollars are going to be available as soon as that gets through the House. If it gets through the House this week, hopefully they won't hold it up. So the first package came out, the second one is now, and then the gap backfill. We have the dollars, I think, hopefully to come out of this, or better than most states that are struggling. And so in every aspect of the economy.
Yeah. Well, those that please keep your questions coming. We're making sure we're taking note of all those questions that have coming in. So we have been told from a higher ed standpoint is that we really need to be cautious. Any sort of new dollars, right, that was allocated for this last legislative session, we really ought to not plan on sort of any sort of new commitments, at least until October. And I think the intention there is we just don't know yet what the state will have to come up with. But so that does impact a lot of the initiatives, right? That Snow College is really feeling like that we can make a difference in the workforce development and in the economy. We're hoping that some of those dollars that are clawed back will be released back to Snow because of our plans for especially technical education and some more online. Our sense, and you get this because you advocate for this, is that higher education is a key variable in strong economies, and especially when we can help students upskill, we can work productively with industries to make sure that they're getting sort of the competencies that they need. But what would you sort of tell? And it was really nice to hear sort of reassurance that you're committed to making sure that higher education doesn't take a huge step back. But what would your advice be to us as a campus as we kind of live in very, very uncertain times?
Well, my advice, President, would be that Snow College is not the #1 junior college in America by chance. That was an unsolicited thing by College America. That so faculty and staff, that's you, that's your president and team. So you will emerge out of this. We will emerge out of this back to the #1 because of the resilience, your attention to students and their success, and during these difficult times, and we don't know the answer to everything, continue to be who you are. Reach out, both students and faculty. If you haven't connected with each other for a little bit, your roommates who are in different parts of the world now, reach out and lift each other up. We will get through this. We don't know how long it'll take, but I promise we'll get through it. As far as assurance for maintaining higher ed, it's the only hope we have. We cannot abandon this with hope for an economy to reemerge. We need these trained workers that we're in the middle of building. We need you students to continue on your path, and no matter what detours that takes with online or whatever it comes up before us, but stay the path. We had such a low point of unemployment, and now how's that going to look? Might have been more difficult to get a job. Well, if you were trained, businesses were looking for you, but now you need your education more than ever. So I think that maintains a strength. We cannot abandon that and set back many years of work that we've been pushing for here at Snow College and across the USHE institutions.
Well, thanks for joining us this morning. We want to remind you viewers out there that we actually have other leaders that are in the wings to answer questions. We've got Provost Steve Hood, we have Vice President Carson Howell, our Associate VP Terry Clausen with enrollment, and of course Director of Resources Josh Hales. So as questions come up that relate either to Representative Owens, please, we welcome those. But as other questions emerge that you might have relative to our academics, our sort of what summer might look like, questions that might revolve around commencement, questions about the homecoming, summer school, all those sorts of things. Have them. Please feel free to bring them to us. While we're kind of getting some questions related to institutional operations, tell us, what is a rainy day fund, and have we ever used it? And if there's ever been a rainy day, would this be one?
Well, that's raining cats and dogs. Yes, we have used the rainy day funds in the past. When you go back to the recession, 08, 09, that's just savings accounts that are invested wisely by the best fiscal analyst in the country. And shout out to them for what they do, because those dollars, we put them in savings and then they generate more savings. They help us rebound. They help us to borrow money. So Utah, when the last recession, we came out of that, we're able to borrow money in comparison to other states who don't have rainy day funds. Our borrowing capacity is higher, and our interest rate is so much lower because we're a AAA rated borrower. That's the beauty of having that, being conservative and maintaining those. But it is raining now, and if we need to deplete those, or hopefully not completely deplete them, but we'll use those to help rebound the economy and maintain services like in higher education, K-12. Education has to be first, but in other places of the economy to keep us going. So that's what they're used for.
Tell us more about what you know about the CARES Act funding. This is the federal package. How much did Utah receive? I can tell you that Snow College has received about $1.2 million, and that's very specifically earmarked for students and emergency needs. related to childcare or to other kinds of expenses related to, they may have had to move back home and may have had to, they were working part-time, and so this is funds that would really help students to be able to compete. There's another half of that, another 1.2 that will be coming later, that is intended for Snow College to offset some of the lost revenue and the impact of COVID-19 on our operations. So about a $2.4 million that will come. Now that sounds like a lot of money, but that is not a lot of money, especially when you look at the losses, and especially, we think this is such a welcome relief to students, because our main purpose right now is to make sure the students continue to complete, right, finish the semester, and get signed up for summer and fall. And right now people are insecure financially, and we need to make sure that they continue on their academic plan, because we will get through this and we need to get back into it. So what do you know about the CARES funding, the CARES Act, as it relates to the state, and how is that largely distributed, if you know?
I'm not super familiar with it because it's brand new.
Yeah.
The CARES Act, but we learning more, and I do know that as a rural group of legislators, we need to band together and get rural Utah's fair share, because it comes to the state, but then it's allocated by needs or leadership or the governor on where they think these dollars should go. And if you just look at our population, we're not in high demand in rural Utah. In fact, we kind of joke about sometimes that we didn't know we came out of a recession yet.
Yeah, that's right.
So we can handle this, but for students and to know that those dollars are here, yes, don't delay your education. Sign up for next semester and continue on. It's your best hope, and the best hope for your future families and your success throughout your entire career. So don't suffer in silence either, because these dollars are here. Check with financial aid and leadership and use those dollars. Now, the first round I know didn't really impact rural Utah, the first round of the CARES Act, but with the second round coming, I know that Representative Albrecht and Senator Okerlund and I have all voiced this to the speaker and to the fiscal analyst, that we have to, rural Utah needs its fair share, which Snow College needs to have its representation there as well, of the dollars coming in. So that's economy wide, but also specifically to Snow College in this world. So we'll have to, I'm still digging into that and learning more about it, but it's so new and it's changing rapidly that it's hard to stay right on top of.
Just remind our viewers, we have Representative Garen Owens with us today. We're actually going to pivot a little bit and bring in our provost, Steve Hood. And Steve, welcome. It's nice to have you with us as always. So some of the questions that are coming up that might involve academics is, what does summer school look like? What about Richfield, labs and summer, and then any other sort of words of advice, encouragement that you might have for our viewers?
Sure. We always have a good list in the summer of courses that are available, and most of those actually are available online anyway. This summer they're going to all be online, with the exception of some courses in Richfield and cosmetology. The cosmetology courses at this point are scheduled to begin after June 1st, and they will be face-to-face, conditions permitting, but that's what we're hoping for right now, and that's what that department is planned for. If you have specific questions on any other programs, you should contact the department chairs, but that's what we know about as far as cosmetology right now. But all of our other offerings will be either remote learning, where we will be broadcasting them, or they will be online courses. Some people are wondering, when we're going to make a decision on courses in the fall. We simply don't know there. We have to get our cues both nationally and from the state to know what's appropriate and to try to keep people safe. At this point, though, in the summer, we're going to offer several workshops for faculty members anticipating, this is not to predict that we're going to be teaching online and remotely in the fall, but anticipating that in areas that we can improve on, things that we've learned about in this semester of teaching remotely and online. So we're going to have workshops during the summer to help faculty be able to be more dynamic and be able to meet the needs of the students in the fall, whether they be online or whether they be face-to-face or whichever way that delivery is going to go. So we're trying to make those preparations now.
Well, Provost Hood, we are now rounding the bend. In fact, we are the tape is really in front of us here, pushing through. So we're students are beginning to take from finals. How would you say folks are holding up? Faculty, students. While it hasn't been ideal or far from, and it's been far from perfect. What can you tell us about how you think our academic side of the house is holding up?
Basically, the academic side of the college has held up pretty darn well. Some students had a little bit of difficulty the first week, maybe week and a half, in adjusting to remote instruction or to online. Most have done pretty well. In fact, some of the reports we're getting back from students now is that they said it went far better than what they thought it was going to. For some students, very few from what we understand, it hasn't gone quite as well. And so there's always that option for pass-fail that students can opt to take a passing grade in a course, a P grade instead of a lettered grade. But for the most part, it's looking like that we've done pretty well from that. The faculty are sharing ideas with one another. The departments are sharing ideas, and what they've decided to do is what we've decided to do is to take these ideas and to share them and to do best practices this summer, so that we can work with one another to deliver the best product we can in the fall.
That is terrific. Well, really, our hats off to our faculty and staff that have worked so hard to compensate for this very, very strange time. And like we said before, especially to our students, that we shouldn't be measuring the value of online with this semester, because this is really not a beta test. This was a pivot. And so we can, we're going to continue to get better and provide the support that our faculty need. But we have asked a lot of our faculty and staff. People are working around the clock because this is a new environment. But the students are also trying to adjust, and I think we've learned a lot. We can learn a lot from this. And this is what colleges and universities do: is that learning does live forever, and we ought to be, among all people here at the college, continually willing to learn and have a growth mindset on that front. We want to also just welcome Vice President Carson Howell with us. Carson, welcome. It's nice to have you. What are some of the questions that might that you might be able to enlighten the group is, to what level will campus be open in the summer? I mean, we know that we've made that the courses will be online, but what can people expect with certain facilities? For example, are we going to be opening up the athletic center eventually? As fitness clubs open up around the state eventually, what do you think our timeline might be? What can you say to that?
Yeah, so right now we are looking, no events are scheduled on campus through the end of May. The plan was to revisit that and look at the progress that the state is making and what's going on with the rates of infection. Every 2 weeks that we would be pushing that out and seeing when we could open. I think that most people have heard the governor this last week talked about a plan to reopen, and one of those things are gyms and athletic centers, and what it would take for that to happen. And so I think that there's going to be some reporting back between the governor, the legislature, the committee that's been formed to look at that, and that decision will be made. But I think that that we will do our best to open those facilities when we can, when it's safe for our students and our community members, our employees to come and take advantage of those. So we'll be monitoring that progress and alerting the campus community when those changes are going to be made, when things are going to be open. But right now, again, we're not planning on those things up through the end of May.
Give us a report, if you would, on really the kind of finance and administration side of the house. We know that IT has been very important to our adjustment to this, but we have people that continue to work, facilities, keeping the plant going, keeping the buildings cleaned. There's the business side of the house continues. So what can you say about that, and how well positioned do you think we are?
Yeah, so we are well positioned. I know that there are a lot of campuses across the country, not just in Utah, not specifically in Utah, but across the country that are really struggling financially. This has taken a big hit. And President, you talked about the CARES Act funding and the $1.2 million that will be coming to Snow College, which does sound like a lot. But our operating budget is about $43 million. And so that really represents less than 3% of our budget, the money that would be coming from the CARES Act. And so, again, we're just encouraging people to watch your spending, to reduce that where you can. Obviously, we're seeing some savings from not traveling to different academic conferences and trainings and things. And so as best we can to just keep our spending under control. We will need to use that. But because of how we're positioned, there aren't plans to do layoffs or furloughs or things like that. We are continuing to press forward. The people who are working, we need you at work. We need you to be doing your job. Right now, it's a lot of that is online and virtually, but operations are still going. We still have students attending, taking classes. We need the back end functions to work, and so we are set up well to do those things. It is an interesting time, and we're hoping that things get back to normal soon. But in the meantime, to just continue doing what we're doing, and to limit your spending where you can.
We have a couple of construction projects on campus, even in the time of COVID, especially in the AC. Do you want to give us an update on what's going on at the activity center, and what can people look forward to in the fall?
Yeah, so there were some projects planned in the activity center that were funded with this current fiscal year funding of capital improvement money. So that's a pot of money that we get from the legislature each year to look at things like if there's sidewalk projects or specific building projects, if a roof needs to be replaced, those kind of things. So in the activity center, we actually needed a new gym floor in there, and the bleachers and things. And so that big project is going on right now. We're also looking at the swimming pool area and things like that. Since the building is going to be closed, it's not open right now, and we're already in there doing some projects. Let's look and see what other things need to be done. So the plan is to try and use this time when it's not being used anyway to get a lot of those projects done. But I think when people come back, that project is scheduled to be completed before the fall semester starts. So when people come back, it'll be cleaner, it'll be newer. Some of the in the gym facility, the bleachers, the gym floor, that will be a much improved area for students and for athletes there.
So just to be clear, that this was funded from, in a way, this last year's budget, right?
Correct.
And so when we talked about how all kind of new money being kind of held, that this is that fiscal year moving forward. So this money was already there, and so if people might be wondering about, how are we spending money doing the AC if we've frozen money, it's in a different budget year. until this was funded.
It is in a different budget year, and it's also a different pot of money. This is money specifically set aside for those kind of construction projects, and so we have to use it for those kind of projects. When we get that money, we actually have to have the projects approved beforehand, so that the legislature knows what we're going to do with that money. It's not just money that we can then shift and do something completely different, or shift to salaries or things like that. This has to be used for construction projects. And so all of those things kind of play into that, but we really are trying to be good stewards with the money that the legislature gives us and appropriates to us. It is public funds, it's taxpayer money. And so we use those with what we promise to use them for, and to do the best that we can with them. We are lucky to be good partners with the state, with the construction management, the Division of Facilities and Construction Management, and they help us out a lot with those different construction projects and helping us. So just a shout out to them as well for all the work that they do.
You know, one of the questions that comes up is Richfield housing. And, you know, can you maybe update us in terms of where we are? We're pushing forward with our contractor, but we've run into some frustrating speed bumps. And so do you want to let folks know where we are on that? We feel that's an important project to move forward if we're going to grow. We have big plans for Richfield, especially as we continue to grow technical education there and open up that campus to be a much more sort of vibrant, you know, have a broader set of offerings. What can you say about where we are on the student housing project there?
Yeah, so this has been a project that's taken a lot of different turns. We obviously don't have that pot of money just sitting there to construct the project, and so we needed to go out and partner with a contractor to do a public-private partnership there. But that's something new, relatively new for the state to look at. And so we had done a request, a proposal out there. There work that out with the state and who pays for it, what standards are they building to. That's been a difficult challenge right now. And so one of the things that we're looking at now is conveying the property or leasing the property to the developer. It becomes their property for a period of time. They build the project, and then after a period of time, so probably about 40 years, that land and the building would then come back to the school. That's one of the things that we're looking at right now. And in fact, at the last Regents meeting, Salt Lake Community College did a proposal very similar to that. And so we're working with Salt Lake Community College to get all the documentation that they had, so that we can pattern that after this, so that we can move forward with that project for Richfield housing, because it is an important project. And we do need to be able to have facilities there for students as we grow the Richfield campus. So that is still moving forward. It's a little slower than we would like, but I think we've got good direction, and the Regents approved that Salt Lake Community College project. And so I think we've got a precedent to be able to go forward and say, you did this last time with Salt Lake Community College. It's a very similar project, and it's to create affordable housing for students. So I think that we've got a good path forward.
Good. Great. Thank you, Vice President Howell. Thank you very much. We want to bring in our Director of HR, Josh Hales. Good morning, Josh. It's nice to see you in all of your COVID beard. And no one grows a beard quite like Josh. We all are a little bit jealous, in fact. But Josh, welcome. It's good to have you here. Some of the questions, coming up was, when do we come back to work? People want to get back to their offices. They want to, have a regular life. So the one question that maybe you can address is, when can people come back to their offices? Even if we're not open as a campus per se, can we get access to our offices?
Yeah. So first off, can you access your office? Absolutely. That's always been part of our plan is that you can come into your office if you need to, but we're highly encouraging everybody to stay home as much as possible. So can you access your office? Yes. In fact, I'll probably be coming in on Friday to do some things that I just can't do at home very well. And so, can you access your office now? Yes. But at the same time, Representative Owens talked about how our curve is starting to flatten and come down. And I think we really want to be careful not to jeopardize that. Let's not get so antsy that we start coming in more than we need to, or going out more than we need to, and jeopardizing the progress that we made. So our stance right now is still where it's been the last few weeks. Can you access your office? Yes. Should you access your office? Only as needed. And then again, really encouraging everybody to work from home still as much as possible. And to the extent you need some support or some extra equipment to make it work effectively, still talk to your supervisor, and we'll see what we can do to make working from home effective. That doesn't mean it's always ideal. The chair I'm sitting in right now is not nearly as comfortable as the one in my office. I have to stand up and kind of walk around a little bit, and unfortunately there's snacks in my kitchen, so that's not necessarily a good thing for me right now. But we right now we still want to do everything we can to make sure we don't lose the progress that we've made.
I think that's a really good point, and maybe even bring in Representative Owens here. I mean, there is this interesting tension nationally, and even our state about this. We've often heard President Trump talk about not having the solution be more dangerous than the disease itself, and so this is, I think, a delicate question about that's not just a question about our own health, because we need to have the freedom to make those decisions. But when it does cross a line and possibly impact others, this has been an interesting thing to watch from a news standpoint about if we open up too early, do we actually in the long run make it harder for ourselves, right? In other words, if there's a resurgence, what is your take of this? Because we're actually here in this campus, we think that if we're lucky, because we're going to have a natural wind down for the semester in a week or so, and then the summer takes on a whole different thing. So it's not like we're a business that needs the so we're gonna continue to sort of move that along as we take our cues from the feds. But what is your sense? I mean, you're dealing with constituencies that are clearly frustrated, that want the economy back, but at the same time, we're listening to health officials say, not so quick, because it could be in the long run actually extend our problems. What are your thoughts on this?
Right. Well, and thank you for you leaders of campus for your words, and Josh, that's good advice. Let's take it slow. Let's not lose the momentum or the winds that we are now at, and seeing the curve turn, because it could flare up. We could be back quickly back to square one again. So, President, I have constituents on complete opposites on both sides of this. I have some that I've been contacted that this is all a scam, and that there's nothing out there to be afraid of at all. Clear to others that say we should be in complete lockdown and never leave our yards and be within 6 feet of any other person. So we're in the middle and trying to navigate this new world. And the new normal, I don't want to give into that, because this isn't going to be normal. We're going to get past this and beyond it, but we have to learn, and we are. And I believe that there will be some medication that is being developed that'll help. We'll find the cure, but meanwhile, we can't make the cure worse than its effect on us. So we have to be wise and just keep doing what we're doing, because it's working. that being said, well, we trust the people. We have to trust that you're going to take care of each other and be smart and not go out if you contract the virus and spread it, because then we lose all the ground we've gained.
Yeah.
But I have to say on that, not on that topic, but if I could grow a beard like Josh Hale,
I know.
I mean, this is a weak attempt you have, but I can't. I told my wife last night, if I could pass a bill that would prevent hair from growing out of your ears as I get older, I could have a heck of a beard.
It's unfair, isn't it?
It's not
As you
fair.
get older, it goes in weird places.
We'll get through this, back to the curve, and it's happening where there's hope. Let's stay with it.
Yeah. So Josh, one question that has come up, and this is a really good one, is to what extent that when let's say we were able to stabilize through the summer and we're able to have students come back in the fall, to what extent might we need to screen students, right? So take their temperatures. So before they start moving back into the dorms, before they start moving back into our classrooms, to what extent do we screen them, and can we screen them? I mean, under sort of county health officials. What is your sense? This may be an unfair question because but again, we're not sure how this will work. It sounds like probably a pretty good idea, because because a lot of carriers don't know they're carrying, and if we can find those before they get in high density places, then we can have strategies to mitigate those problems. What is your sense of this?
Yeah, so that's another one of those really interesting and kind of hard questions that maybe really good fodder for probably a philosophy class. But at what point do we where's the line on protecting everybody as they come back versus people's right to privacy and those kind of things. As we discussed that topic in some of our meetings, our sense right now is let's not make any rash decisions about whether or not we're going to do that this fall yet. But at the same time, we are always looking at ways to, how can we protect everybody when they come back without necessarily crossing any ethical or legal guidelines. The legality for that is still kind of up in the air right now. We're still waiting to get guidance on what we can do. But at the same time, we also want to make sure we're respecting people's privacy, and then the other consideration is these tests can be a little bit painful, and so again we're really discussing a lot how do we find the right balance there. But again, we welcome any feedback on that as we continue to deliberate that question.
Incidentally, we want to remind the campus that we have an emergency operations committee that meets very regularly. I meet with them once a week to kind of discuss scenario planning, how we're positioned relative to this condition. So this was a question that did come up on Tuesday about and so we're thinking through these things. We don't have to have answers today because we just don't know, but to think about scenarios that we may anticipate. I mean, the fact that we've had a lot of earthquakes in the state, if we have COVID on top of a major earthquake incident along the Wasatch Front, we have to think about that. That's not out of the realm of possibility, which does mean that resources may be we're a little further down on the totem pole, and so what would we have to do to compensate for something like that? So we think through these things. I really want to thank the EOC, Derek Wack and Stacy Taylor, who are our chiefs on this, have been terrific, and everybody else has been a part of it. Listen, we also want to bring in a very special guest from the Howell family. We have a future Badger, and I believe Shayla Shayla wants to share some words of wisdom with our campus, as I understand it.
She does. She's coming right over. What do you want to say? To be safe, wash your hands. No, you don't want to say that.
Well, let me ask Shayla though. We really look forward. She would really look good in orange. You're going to go to college, right, Shayla? Where are you going to go to college?
Snow College.
Snow College.
Yeah, yeah. And so what we want to do is actually have a segue into Terry Clausen. Speaking of future Badgers, Terry and her staff have been working very, very hard in making sure that we have as healthy an enrollment next year as we possibly can. So our gratitude to you and to your staff. So do you want to talk a little bit about where we are with enrollment, both say for summer and for fall? And what are some of the things that you've had to do, some sort of backflips and gymnastics moves to stay on top of, a very weird recruitment cycle?
It is definitely weird. I'm not going to lie there. Yeah, so enrollment for summer is down, which is not terribly surprising considering everything that is going on. So we do have some plans in place. We met yesterday with marketing and academics to see what we can do to boost that. Normally we've got several international students that are doing ESL over the summer that we don't necessarily have on campus. And that's going to impact us. I think there's just an uncertainty. So we're going to try and really emphasize that this is a great time to come and take classes. You're not going on summer vacation, most likely, right? I don't know about the rest of you. I'm staying pretty close to home. Why not take a class, improve a skill, do something like that? So we're definitely going to be pushing that for summer to see if we can bump those numbers up. As for fall, I'm really happy to report that in the past week or so, we have actually seen a shift. We had started to see kind of a downward slide, which was a little bit concerning, not as significant as other institutions around the nation, but I was a little bit worried, I'm not going to lie. But we've seen a pretty good rally from our students out there that are looking to come to Snow College, and we've increased our admits considerably. So now we are up about 130 over last year, which, considering the climate we're going to take, it's awesome. The students that are actually filling out the registration survey and the advisors are working through that, we've been seeing about 10 to 15 surveys completed each day. Just got word this morning that we had a huge jump last night. And so we're looking at having just about 50% of our class registered for this fall, which is fantastic. Really happy with that. But
remind us, Terry, though, this is really a significant effort, and I really want to thank our student services, student success team so tell us a little bit what the survey was intended for. So it goes out to all of our incoming students. Why were we sending that out, and then what did that inform us to help us put together schedules? So do you want to talk about that? Because I think this is really important for them to understand.
Yeah. This is a process that has been done at other institutions to great success. The survey that we send out to all incoming freshmen asks a variety of questions that will help an advisor really craft the best schedule possible to put them on a pathway to help them be successful and graduate. I don't know about you, but when I first went away to college, I was a little bit inundated by looking at the course offerings and knowing what I needed to take. And it was daunting. This process, it's a very easy survey. It probably will take a student less than 10 minutes. And that's if they're really struggling to figure out, what exactly do I want to go into. just those questions, and that's it. They don't have to worry about, okay, am I going to take English? Am I going to take math? And what, do I want to take sociology or do I want to take psychology for my social science? We do the work for them. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that students are locked into that schedule and they can never change. We will open up the ability to change schedules sometime in July. I think July 1st is the date that we've chosen. But up to this point, it's really helping us kind of take a look at our class loads. Are we filling up sections? Do we have sections where we may need to shift students to that particular area? Do we need to talk to academics about reallocating resources to maybe, we've got a higher demand for English 1010, so should we add more sections there and not as many of 2010? So having a survey like this helps us plan better for fall enrollment.
Well, if you can imagine, like you say, if we all go back to when we were 18 or 19 years old, if we were handed a schedule, it was tremendously reassuring, right? Because then I knew, all right, I've got to, because I know I've got to have a math class. I know I've got to have an English class, at least in the fall or in the spring for that first year. And what we found that reassures students that they can come, because often those kind of decisions create some paralysis, which then makes them delay those decisions, which then by the time later on in the summer, those classes are filled. So this helps them kind of be reassured that they've got a viable, good schedule for that first semester. And on the institution side, we're able to allocate our resources, right? We know which sections, we can allocate our sections across not just fall, but spring. How important is that all of our students take a math class in the fall? Well, it turns out that if they take it fall or spring, it's okay. It helps us to sort of, appropriate our instructional resources in an appropriate way. And I think this is going to really help us in getting students to follow that, because if we're handing them a schedule, they know, okay, I'm going to go to college. This is, we're good. So I really think this is a terrific initiative, and our advisors have worked very hard on doing this. And it sounds like we have about half of our students with schedules in hand. And my feeling is that very few students are, have really questioned it. They will have a chance to change it probably later on in June or so. If they want, but a lot of people are just very happy that they've got a viable schedule and they've got a place to land and know what they're going to be doing.
Yeah, the feedback that we've heard from the students is that this has just been such a seamless, easy process for them that I think that alone is worth it, regardless of all of the other benefits. The fact that these students are less stressed and much more secure in the knowledge of what they're taking this fall, that's more than we could ask for. So it's been really fantastic, and everyone's worked really hard to make this happen. So thanks to all of you out there that have done this.
Yeah. What have your recruiters had to do? What are some of these kind of special efforts they've had to do to keep in contact with students making decisions, our graduating seniors, throughout the state? We haven't been able to do high school tours. We haven't been able to bring groups on campus. And so, out of sight, out of mind is a problem we have to always consider, especially in a place that's in Sevier County and in Sanpete County. What have you guys had to do to kind of compensate?
Yeah, so like you said, we have not been able to do any in-person visits, and Snow College has always prided itself on the personalized touch. And so those have really been our lifeblood, when we can sit down with a student face to face and walk them through things. And that's been taken away. And so all of our advisors have had to pivot really hard, really quickly, to figure out exactly how to maintain that sense of personalization and one-on-one care. So what we've done is we've moved everything virtually but we're doing it in a way that they can still have that very personalized touch. Potential students are welcome to set up one-on-one appointments via WebEx with any of our advisors. And the admissions office and others around campus that we're working with are doing daily meetings, so to speak, where a student can sign up and have a small group session with financial aid and scholarships, advising, housing. We do campus tours live on Instagram every Wednesday at 10 o'clock if you want to see some of our local ambassadors walking around campus and just having a good time. That's one of the things that they're doing. Tomorrow they're doing a tour of the Richfield campus on Instagram Live, and they're also doing tours of housing. So that's been really, really beneficial. It started out slow, but now word has gotten out, and every day we get a few more interested students.
Good. We want to also thank John Stevens and his group for our marketing and especially our social media, our website, those sorts of things. And we want to remind people that, listen, you're also an extension, invited to be a part of our
Yep.
social media blitz. We want to flood the state with Snow College images and good stories. So what can you, how might you support, or how might you encourage our faculty and staff and students to be a part of the Badger marketing campaign?
Mm-hmm. So John Stevens and his team sent out a request to have pictures of you working from home that they're going to post. So I think it's the hashtag Badgers at Home. We've been really lucky in the fact that we've had former students that have moved on to other institutions that have seen some of the things that we have posted, and they've interacted and done things on their own. So former ambassadors have posted to say what a great time and experience they had at Snow College. So doing some of those things, as well as commenting, liking, and sharing the posts that are done by the Be a Badger page or the Snow College page or any of the other different Instagram or social pages out there, is really helpful, because that gets it out to your sphere in social media, and you never know who that's going to impact.
No, it's true. And we compete with a lot of different institutions and for time and attention. And so part of it is we have to be persistent and we have to be constant. So one of the questions that it's a good question is that when might we have a listing? And this is maybe we want to bring Provost Hood in. Can we do a split screen, Kurt? No. When will we be able to have a list of our summer courses that we can then sort of promote? We can kind of blast that out to students about that. I know that we're working on a summer school landing page. We're sort of taking a look at what sections are full and what sections we can start maybe adding sections of certain courses that might be getting full. But between Provost Hood and Terry, how might we be able to have that summer list, and then we can start sort of promoting, summer?
So the summer list is up. It's actually been up since January, and it's listed under exactly the same prompt that you would register for classes in the fall or the spring. So it's accessible that way. It's also accessible. There's a banner that crosses the web page from time to time, and if you scroll down to the beginning of the web page down towards the bottom, it will list summer courses, and you can click that banner. Saying that, I'll check right now, make sure it's still on.
That's good. Back to our sort of social media campaign, some of the hashtags that we want to make sure that you maybe include in your social media is hashtag Badgers at Home, okay, that's Badgers at Home, or hashtag Snow College, hashtag Be a Badger. By the way, that's actually very vibrant. The Be a Badger hashtag Be a Badger. So put those all three of hashtag Badgers at home, hashtag Snow College, hashtag Be a Badger. That will then kind of be able to sort of expand our reach. Let me get back to our guest, Representative Owens. Representative Owens, you do a lot of thinking about our state, and especially a lot about our central part of our state, and issues related to rural communities. And then as you think about, as an elected official, you're running for a Senate seat, which coming up this next November, we've had the great sort of luck and fortune to be able to have Senator Ralph Okerlund serve as our senator. And you're looking to occupy that seat. What are some of the hopes that you have for our central region and for rural Utah, and for Snow College in particular, if you were to become a senator?
Yeah, thanks, President. My hope, I just have to tell you, sitting here and watching this as your guest, and your staff, and knowing behind the scenes, we see your IT people, and back to the facilities, and every faculty member and student a part of this. This gives me hope. Snow College does. As a representative, I've been in the House Representative for 5 years, and I've learned the legislative process. I've built some relationships there that have been, I feel, very powerful to help promote Snow College. And what Snow College offers, but also all aspects of central and rural Utah. This last year, I worked on a difficult bill on emergency medical services, because we're the playground for the Wasatch Front. They come here to recreate and everything, but as far as emergency medical services, you take a county like Wayne County, they have 2,500 residents and 1 million visitors a year. And that's a heavy load to carry for them for emergency medical services. And Snow College is a little bit that same scenario, that we have things to carry, but if you do well, the college is amazing. And so it's reassuring and hopeful for me just to sit here and watch this, all of you interact and go deep in the weeds about funding and student recruitment. I mean, Terry, where would we be? Where would the college numbers be without COVID-19? It'd be off the chart.
Yeah, we're hoping a lot more.
Yeah, I know, and students out there that are looking at, come here. I have a junior who's taking concurrent enrollment right now through Snow College, so I see it right at my home, and appreciate the work and the patience of the instructors. And you talk about a pivot. Nobody asked for this. We're all in it together, and I'm in a legislative session that's ongoing tomorrow that's virtual from home as well. And it's not the same. I have hopes that the campus will be open completely by the fall. I feel like it will be, and I'm going to work towards that. So if I can fill Senator Okerlund's seat, my goal will continue to be keep an eye on Snow College and our rural Utah values. I love what you're doing with, you already have some online initiatives going forward, CTE at Richfield. I passed a bill so that we could do the private-public partnership to help with the housing there. I'm glad to hear that Salt Lake Community College is using that bill. I passed a bill for Promise Scholarship to help students that need some funding help. Once they use the FAFSA dollars, then we can backfill for them. So students, talk to your financial aid people here. They're professionals. They know how to help. So that's my goal and hope, is to see this central Utah area continue to thrive.
Yeah, one of the commitments that I've really admired that you have is really to student need-based aid. About 90+% of the assistance, financial aid assistance, scholarships rather, go to academic academic accomplishments, which is terrific. But often those that need an education most can't afford it. And there's that group that doesn't get enough from the Pell Grant, and they still, without just a little more help, they can't make it work. Tell us a little bit about why that commitment's important to you, and it's certainly, as an educator, especially as one in rural Utah, that to be able to have more need-based aid, emergency aid for students to take advantage of higher education is really, really a critical move. And I applaud you, but I know it's been sort of slower work than you want.
It has been, and it's I've taken some battle wounds over that. I've even been called a socialist, anything but a conservative Republican. But to your point, President, 97% actually. 97% of college scholarships are merit-based, which is great. Passing a Promise Scholarship to help students in need, and you asked where that came from. Our county has its challenges with intergenerational poverty, and if we can't lift, this isn't a handout. This is a lift, like a leg up, and then you got to ride the horse.
Yeah.
We're not doing the work for you, but this little scholarship to help you have ability to change the trajectory of your family and get out of that intergenerational poverty. Just I don't know why it clicks to me, but it's something that I'm willing to take a few battle scars. But what happened to get some of these dollars is that we found 91% of students who were receiving the state's big cash scholarship were stacking them. And so they were all going to, most of the dollars were going to a few students. So my goal in that scholarship bill was to pull some of those dollars back and allow other students of need. And we leveraged the FAFSA. So we are leaving $50 million a year. Students, fill out the FAFSA.
That's right.
We were leaving $50 million a year on the table. Those are dollars that those are Utah dollars. They're not the Fed's dollars. We should have them. So we need to access them, fill that out and use that, and then you'll have help to get tuition and fees. And we tweaked it a little bit this year so that it even helped a little further.
Yeah. If we could bring back Provost Hood back into the conversation, one follow-up question is that we are very proud of our composite program in manufacturing some masks. Where are we on that project, and have we been able to help in the ways that we were hoping?
Yeah, the original project was to create masks that could be used by emergency medical services in Sevier County and then some other departments, and they have been able to do that. There's those students have had to switch over now, though, to complete the rest of their composite manufacturing requirements because they have finals next week, so they're not able to do the masks anymore at this point. I do note, however, that even though the masks were very high quality and that we had help from medical professionals, a physician, a dentist, and others who made sure that they were very good, N95 masks have to be certified through government inspection, and so they were not certified masks. But the idea of perhaps getting masks for the fall semester is a good idea. It's something that we can talk to Professor Ney about. By that time, we're hoping that there will be masks back out on the market. Johnson & Johnson and MSA Medical and so on have all indicated that by midsummer they're going to have a lot of masks back out again. But that's a great idea. It's something that we can do. And as I understand, the good thing about the masks that our composite students were making is that they are cleanable. They can be reused. And so that's something that you can't always do with some of the other masks.
Yeah. You know, we have international students on our campus. Some of them are kind of stuck here in a sense because of the travel bans, and so their countries have really kind of shut down to kind of keep people in place to and so one of the questions is, how can faculty and staff help, these students that that probably feel a little isolated? How can we make sure that they aren't abandoned? I know our student success teams are in constant contact with these students. We're providing meals for these students. But this was a goodwill question that came up about, is there anything that faculty and staff could be doing to help maybe their struggles?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. For some of these students, they actually want to go home, and some of them may even have the financial means to go home, but because of the different restrictions, they're not able to go home. And so having to stay over the summer may be a particularly difficult challenge. One of the things that we've been encouraging faculty to do, and that is when they have international students in their classes, to take extra note of their needs, to reach out to them, to check on them, to make sure they're doing well. Our residence life people are doing exactly that. They have a regular check system where they're checking on the students to make sure they're okay. But there may be some confusion because some international students may feel like they need to get a hold of an office and they call, and there may not be an answer at that phone immediately because we're working at skeletal staffs in the Greenwood Student Center, while most of our workers are working from home. And so if you have difficulty getting hold of a faculty member, I wish you would just contact me directly, steve.hood@snow.edu. And if you have trouble getting hold of a staff member, I would suggest contacting either Alex Peterson or Becky Adams in the International Student Office by email, because they can help you make the contacts with the services that you need. We don't want you to feel like you're out there alone, and I know sometimes you do. I was at the grocery store the other day and talked to a couple of our students, and they were wearing their masks, which was great, and talked to them. And they said it is really hard, that their parents are worried about them, that they worry about their families at home, and that they just feel right now that they're really lonely. So our heart goes out to you. We know that this is a really difficult time.
Well, listen, we're rounding out, really, we're past the hour, and we thank the cabinet for being on call here, but a particular special thank you to Representative Owens. Just to remind the campus, today is actually a special day. I want to remind you that today is the National Professional Administrative Day. This is when we extend our gratitude to those that are so important, our professional colleagues around the campus that really make the campus hum. And I'm looking forward to this, but I really want Marcy to come over and poke her head into the camera, because first off, it's fun to embarrass her, but I want to, come over here, Marcy. You might have to come over, but I just want you to wave to your adoring fans. But Marcy, among the whole other army of professionals like Marcy, make this campus really special. I got to tell you, Marcy is just a delight to work with. She's a consummate professional. She is incredible in terms of getting ahead of things and being proactive. And I couldn't feel more fortunate to work with a professional like her. But there's so many others in our office, Lindsay Wade and Olivia and others that really carry a lot of the burden day to day. And I know those of you that are listening that are in that category, thank you so much for your service. Thank you for your commitment and in many ways sacrifice, because these professionals go above and beyond what's asked so often. And anyway, our terrific gratitude to you for what you do, and we really appreciate you. Just want to remind you, actually, we've made a little bit of a pivot on homecoming. We announced last week it was going to be on October 10th, but we were able to schedule a football game. That's always one of these ongoing things to get good competition. We were able to schedule a football game on October 24th. So we're actually going to move homecoming to October 24th. And so make a note in your calendars that is not the weekend before, but the weekend after. And we're grateful for Coach Mitchell. We're able to get a pretty decent schedule for the fall. And of course, we're still wondering whether we're going to be able to have competitions at all. But right now, homecoming is October 24th. Also, we just want to continue to remind you to stay safe. Take this seriously, folks. You're not going to be helpful to your families or yourself or the campus if you're sick. And much of this can be avoidable. We are going to have a town hall next week, which we think might be the last of the semester. And then we'll ask you, those that have been participating with us each week, whether we want to do this regularly through the summer or every month or something, and then decide how we want to maybe use these kind of things ongoing, maybe from the fall, beginning fall next year. So listen, thank you so much for all that you do. Thanks for tuning in and staying with us this morning. Thank you to Representative Owens for your time. All the best with the legislature. And thanks for advocating for higher education, specifically for Snow College. So thank you. Stay safe and go Badgers.
Go Badgers.